Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to The Back Road. My name is Ethan Levesque, better known online as The Main Man. Using the principles that have guided my own career and life goals through business, marketing, and creativity, I'm here to discuss the strategies that actually help to build strong relationships with your audience, no matter the platform. Coming up on The Back Road, I reminisce on the joy of producing my first film, and the grade A dingbat that made my life a living hell throughout it. I explain how to be less of a mean poop face on a daily basis. And I answer a viewer question about the freedom of speech on social media. All of that and more just around the corner. Welcome to episode 29. Today's theme is buttholes. No, not the rectum, the personality. But before we get into all of that, at this juncture, I'd like to talk about the opposite of buttholes. Mouth holes. No, that ain't it. I'm talking about good people, right? What does it mean to be a good person? Well, according to the Texas Education Agency, it's all about courtesy, responsibility, fairness, and caring. According to the dictionary, it's about being kind, beneficiary, and friendly. According to the Global English Editing, it's about empathy, honesty, respect, and the ability to forgive. Are 3 examples not enough for you? Let's do 3 more. PsychCentral.com says it's about embracing qualities that promote positive outcomes and well-being for humanity as a whole. Medicine.net says it's about being easy to get along with. BetterHelp.com says it's about acting in ways that are perceived to be more morally positive or upstanding. You want to define a good person? You don't need 100 pages on Google to explain it. But just in case you do, there are 100,000 of them ready for you to read. My bottom line is that being a good person means operating as such. Choosing to do good, choosing to do right, choosing to move forward, choosing to be a light in the darkness, choosing to be an advocate instead of an enemy. Choosing to keep yourself from holding the world back. And guess what? If you don't relate to any of those definitions we've talked about so far, then I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you're probably a soul-sucking jerkwad of a human. Whether it's your fault you're that way or not, it doesn't matter. A jerk is a jerk. Now the good news is, the same way crazy people don't know that they're crazy, jerks usually don't know they're jerks. That means if you're sitting there second-guessing whether or not you're a dipstick right now, you probably aren't one. Self-awareness is a very non-jerk behavior. However, if by now you're still fully convinced that you're not a sleazebag, then this episode has been custom-tailored just for you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, shall we? A couple of days ago at the Independence Day barbecue, somebody asked me what makes me lose my cool. And I answered, inanimate objects, easily avoidable incidents, and my body refusing to do what I tell it to. In a nutshell, I don't like dead remotes, or when a bar of soap keeps slipping out of my hands. I don't like stubbing my foot on a table with legs that stick out just a little too far, or when I cut myself on a knife someone carelessly left out in the open, and I don't like it when I can't stop sneezing, or when I go to turn on the light switch and I miss the first flick. But you'll notice human beings aren't really a part of that list. They're not on it. What can I say? Snapping a broomstick in half because it won't lean against the wall feels a lot more satisfying than the bitterness of hating another human being. I mean, who does it help? Every time I've ever felt the need to curse someone out or stand my ground and choose to do so in an aggressive, manly, and look at my tattoos and mustache kind of way, I left feeling worse than I entered. I don't want to be yelled at, so yelling shouldn't be on my to-do list. I don't like being degraded and called names, and that's why barking out insults isn't my instinct. I don't like getting hurt, which makes purposefully hurting another person unfathomable. But maybe that's just me. Or maybe it's how I was raised. When I was in middle school, the school bullies were starting to pick on me more than the rest of the kids in my class, and in response, my dad said, "Kid, you've got a temper, so I'll make you a deal. You're allowed 1 fight before you graduate. 1 fight only, and I won't get mad. So you better make it worth it, because 2 fights and I'm going to become your worst nightmare." And like every 12-year-old looking up to his dad, that made perfect sense to me. That's an easy deal to make. Beat someone up with no consequences, hook me up. So I took the words to heart and reminded myself every day that if I was going to fight, it was going to be to protect someone at all costs or protect myself at all costs. No other reason was going to be acceptable. I spent 7th to 8th grade getting shoved, tripped, and pushed, but never lost my cool because I wanted to save that fight for something worse, because I knew worse was going to come. I entered high school and spent 9th grade getting harassed by the upperclassmen and having things hurled at my head all day, but I knew these guys weren't worth my time. I spent 10th grade awkward and being teased for my femininity, but I knew there was something better around the corner, so I learned how to make friends with the other social shokels and travel in a pack. In 11th grade, I realized I was smarter than the idiots going out of their way to hurt me, and I spent my time learning how to outwit, outmaneuver, and outrun every dinkwad that aimed to knock me down, because the next year was going to be my year. So 12th grade came, but this year was different. I was on a semi-friendly term with just about every school bully. Nobody was trying to smack me, insult me, or hurt my feelings, and I never really found myself in a scenario to defend anyone, let alone myself. Like that, 12th grade was over. I graduated, I moved into the world, and I spent the entire summer realizing that I wasted my get-out-of-jail-free card. I never threw a punch. I never tackled a jock. I never protected a damsel in distress. And the more I thought about the missed opportunity and dreamt about how good it would feel to sock one of those loose-lipped losers in the jaw with an uppercut from hell, the more I understood why my dad was kind of a genius. He taught me restraint. Had I not kept my fists in my pocket, I wouldn't have learned to talk my way out of confrontation. I wouldn't have learned to make friends easily. And I wouldn't have learned how to keep myself safe. Every time I chose to keep my hands to myself when I was pissed off, I strengthened my patience, my communication skills, my filter, my charisma, and my ability to mirror a personality. Unhealthy trait, not necessarily, but helpful. These lessons ultimately led me to becoming a good student in college, a good salesman in business, a good writer in my free time, a good listener to those I care about, and a good problem solver no matter what I was up against. And most importantly, I learned that to look at everyone around me through an empathetic lens was important, because at the end of Earth's daily rotation, we're all just trying to do our best and keep it together. At least, that's what I'm trying to do. So that's what I have to assume everyone else is doing, right? I suppose that's what consciousness is, doing your best and keeping it together. I also suppose that's why in my entire professional career, I've always tried to keep my bridges from burning down. Everyone's out there learning, and if I went no contact for every inconvenience I've ever been experiencing, I'd be homeless, friendless, and futureless. Burning bridges is illogical to me, because just about every connection I've ever made in this life, even the ones with grade A b-holes, led to other connections, opportunities, and milestones that proved the effort worthwhile. That being said, sometimes you've got to set a bridge ablaze for all to see. And for me, that ignition happened 7 years ago. And like my dad taught me, I did it without consequences. And here we are 2,500 days later, and there isn't a single second of regret in my heart. You want to know why? Because it was worth it. My senior year of college, I wrote, produced, and directed a student film that was so much fun, I couldn't even be bothered to sleep. We spent 3 months in pre-production, 16 days filming outside in January during the coldest I have ever seen the state of Maine get, and I spent a full year in an editing booth. You want to watch it? It's free. It's called Indemnity. It's on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. Anyway, during this filming, one of our team members was really a promising hire. I was really excited to work with him. That's why we offered him 50% more money than he originally asked for. We promised a few extra copies and a few posters that other people weren't going to get. And we even made sure he had his own living quarters. Right? I wanted to take care of this guy. But when I gave him an inch, he took a mile. On set, he made demand after demand, hour after hour, over and over. For 16 days, my focus on our film was stolen by a petulant child demanding rides because he didn't have a driver's license and needed coffee, cigarettes, and extra food and snacks that the rest of the crew, by the way, wasn't allowed to have access to. Our team morale became extremely delicate because he was hostile when he was hungry, hostile when he was cold, hostile when he was rushed, and hostile when he was inconvenienced. Through the editing process, he resisted the voiceover work that his contract told him he had to do. He threw a tantrum when I had a friend pick him up instead of a taxi. He demanded merch that wasn't even being created, royalties that nobody was promised, and dozens of extra copies of a DVD that was, quite frankly, going straight to digital. Sure, in our industry, maybe some of that stuff could have been offered or expected, but this was a student production for a $5,000 budget, not a $500,000 independent film. So when the film was complete, I decided to burn that bridge to the ground. I did so kindly, of course. I informed him that I would no longer be working with him in a professional capacity, and I no longer wanted to have contact with him in a personal capacity. It was over. Of course, he promptly informed me that I'm an arrogant ass, just like every other producer he had ever met. And hey, maybe he's right. Maybe all of my good intentions, overcompensations, and effort to fulfill my promises were in fact disingenuous. Maybe I'm in it for my own good. Maybe I, like all producers, am an incredulous scuzzball. Maybe it is that simple. Or maybe if everyone's the ass, you're the ass. If restraint has taught me anything, it's that hatred gets you nowhere and empathy grows you forward. That's why I hold no hate in my heart for this guy, no matter how much crap he put me through. I genuinely hope he's well, because all humans deserve basic kindness. I hope he's gotten help. I hope he's healed, and I hope he's realized that the patterns in front of him are not the world's will, but rather his own design. After all, if life truly is about trying your best and keeping it together, then admitting you're wrong every now and then is only going to make you better. That's why this week's Earful is all about how to be less of a schmuck. Being a bad dude is easy. Taking the low road? Easy. Being mean? Easy. That's because moral fiber is strong and hard to break, and being a defeatist is easier than weaving your own belief system. There's something stress-free about knowing you did something wrong, because when you try to do something right, you never really know for sure you did. There's something stress-free in committing to the role of heel, because when you're playing the face, you never quite know what you're wrestling for. There's something stress-free in isolating yourself, because when you're around others, there is a pressure to physically, socially, culturally, and cognitively perform. But being the butthole of the friend group holds about as much fulfillment as being the butt of the joke. And in a way, it makes you the most reliable person there, because everyone knows what to expect. Unfortunately, when you're like that, that expectation is nothing. And when people expect nothing from you, they ask nothing from you, they want nothing from you, and eventually they'll need nothing to do with you. And like most villains, you'll get what you've always wanted: the opportunity to validate your worldview by relishing in your own self-righteousness and rejecting accountability. If this is you, then I say this with love: congratulations on being a world-class boner. I'm sure you've had your hardships, I'm sure you've had your reasons, I'm sure at the start most people were in fact out to get you. But I do believe that turbulence mostly comes from within. So if you have any interest in salvaging your softness, stabilizing your soul, and sealing your scars, here's a quick test. If you bump into a couple dirtbags a day, then they're the dirtbags. But if you bump into dirtbags all day, then you're the dirtbag. Being around a jerk is exhausting. It's like watching a marathon of security footage on a red eye without taking a nap. It's like seeing a stage show specifically steered to suck your soul simulated by Steven Spielberg. Jerks make people feel demeaned, degraded, de-energized, disrespected, decepted, disapproved of, and like they are in constant danger. Jerks will disagree with you when you agree with them. Jerks will trick you into bringing up touchy subjects. Jerks will intimidate you into silence. Jerks will manipulate you into feeling bad for them. And jerks will gaslight you into debilitation. You hear that, rogue rats out there? This is what you're doing to people. This is how you make people feel. This is why things aren't going your way. Also, I'm really impressed that you're still here. I thought you would have left by now. You want to stop being a beef-brained bully butt? It's as simple as 5 steps. Step 1, quit blowing your lid. It's not cool. Nobody likes it. Use your big boy words and your inside voice. We learned how to do that when we were 4 years old. Come on now. Step 2, stop calling people names. It starts by calling your boss a jagweed, and the next thing you know, you're calling your doctor a moron, your accountant a clown, and your 2-year-old niece a fascist. Once you determine someone is beneath you, everyone becomes beneath you. It's a slippery slope, and the sooner you put some respect in your mouth, the better. And step 3, accept that you are capable of being wrong, and that you are a flawed human being. Because we all suck, every one of us. But being wrong isn't a sign of weakness, it's an opportunity to show strength. Step 4, don't form an opinion on anything until you understand the perspective of all others involved and have had the proper time to contemplate your own thoughts and emotions surrounding it. Speaking before you've had the chance to process new information is like sending a steak back because it's not cooked right before it's even arrived at your table. You've got to dissect it before you can reject it. And step 5, start asking follow-up questions when someone upsets you. If your best friend tells you you're being inconsiderate, they don't deserve a tongue lashing, they deserve the respect of being heard. So ask what you did wrong and listen to what they say. And if after hearing them out, you still think they're wrong, it's not time to bite their head off. It's time to explain that you didn't intend to cause harm, apologize for the miscommunication, and consider what you just learned as you move forward in life. Opportunities to grow never stop coming. If you're having a hard time finding optimism, gratitude, or even just a reason to smile, there are people out there to help. Many of us have spent our lives treating our mental health like our gun safe, a vault that nobody else has the key to. But if you keep parts of you locked up, those parts are going to get lost forever. Things like therapy, support groups, or even self-help books give you the chance to put your own healing in your own hands. And as hesitant as you may be to try it, the reality is you're going to get exactly what you want out of the experience. If you go in doubtful and paranoid, yeah, you're going to walk out a pessimistic skeptic. But you tell your therapist the things you don't like about yourself, and they may actually have what they need to guide you forward. Trust your support system to accept you, and you may actually shed the shame that drives your insecurities. Try out a self-help book, and you may actually learn something that changes the course of your entire life. It's happened to me like 15 times. Kim Scott, author of Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity, knows that you can care and challenge at the same time. That means you can be a skeptic without being closed-minded. You can express frustration without freaking people out. You can give someone advice without damaging their confidence. And the way to do all of this is through radical candor. Radical candor means being upfront and compassionate simultaneously 24/7. Because as Kim goes on to explain, if you're not being radically candid, you're being a jerk. She says to care about someone without challenging them is ruinous empathy. She says challenging someone without caring is obnoxious aggression. And she says that not caring about someone or being willing to challenge them is manipulative insincerity. Another way of telling that you're being an ass's ass, otherwise known as a donkey's behind, is to analyze your basic kindness. When you're parking, are you going to take up 2 lanes? Are you ready to steal a space? Or are you willing to park in the handicap spot? I know your passengers hope not. When you're speaking to another person, are you using your manners, raising your voice, or being passive-aggressive and sarcastic? I'm sure your waitress loves it. When you're eating, do you hog all the cinnamon butter at Texas Roadhouse? Do you chew with your mouth open so everyone else can see the shrimp morsels between your crusty old teeth? Or do you pick food off of other people's plates without asking like some abused and hungry canine at the shelter? Yeah, I'm sure you're a big hit at singles night. Oh, here's another one. How's your self-awareness? Did you know that to most people of the world, the only explanation for leaving your shopping cart wild in a parking lot, leaving your dog crap fresh and steamy on the sidewalk, and rushing to the cash register before the old lady can beat you there is that you have a complete disregard for anything and everyone? That behavior is selfish and unpleasant, bottom line. And sure, I'll admit, there's a time and a place to be selfish. There's a time and a place to be unpleasant. But that time is not everywhere, always, consistently, habitually, and relentlessly for eternity. Do you really want to know if you're an emotional terrorist? Do you really want to know if you're a bad person? Then I'll ask you one final question. Are you ignorant of the validity of any of the points I have made here today? All the good people listening right now know that when there's no need to be a D-bag, we have no justifiable reason to be a bag of Ds. If you believe otherwise, then that's why people are balling their fists when they're around you. That's why people are burning bridges with you. That's why people are avoiding you. That's why people are intimidated by you. That's why people are lying to you, and that's why the universe seems out to get you. Because if everyone's a jerk, you're the jerk, and nobody wants to associate with jerks. Well, we're almost out of the woods, but we're not there yet. Let's take a detour. You've got Q's and I've got A's, so let's comfort your curiosity no matter how deep, dark, or dense. This week's question comes from Mitty J. He wants to know more about freedom of speech on social media and what I think of the censorship that is going around our world today. Very relevant question, MJ, so here are my thoughts. Social media is not designed or produced for your benefit, and the sooner you get that out of your head, the better. Maybe some set out that way and others still try to be that way, but in my opinion, if someone's giving you something for free, then that makes you the product. The goal of a social media platform is the same as any entertainment platform. They're selling attention. Scratch that. They're selling your attention. And they're selling it right to businesses, brands, and organizations. That's why they want you on the app every single second of your day. They want you thinking about them constantly enough to make you check your messages before you wake up, before you think to brush your teeth. They want you hooked badly enough that you feel the need to sneak it at work or at school. They want you so addicted that you're doom scrolling when you should be asleep. In fact, if they had their way, you'd be surfing the web on dreamexplorer.io every night. So here's why you're seeing an increase of censorship on social media. It's not because everyone's a snowflake, it's because you're getting in the way of sales. Think about social media like a family Thanksgiving dinner. If you're constantly swearing at the table, the kids will get uncomfortable, the moms will get upset, and the grandparents will get mad. Not because they don't believe in your freedom of speech, but because they believe in being respectful. If you're complaining the entire meal, people will change the subject, change their tone, and even change rooms if you annoy them enough. Not because they don't care what you have to say, but because you're sucking all the positive energy out of the room. If your behavior is unacceptable enough, you may even be asked to leave, and you might not be invited back next year. Social media works the same way. If what you're doing is annoying the people who follow you, you're going to irritate them, destabilize their mood, and attract less of their attention. Eventually, people will ignore you, remove you, and block you. And the algorithm notices. Social media is trying to sell attention, and if users aren't generating enough of it, they're going to perform on that app poorly. Because putting a Mountain Dew ad over your post isn't going to be seen by as many people as if they had put it on somebody else's. So of course, platforms are banning users, punishing bad behavior, filtering for spam, and reducing misinformation. Because allowing it on their field negatively affects their bottom line. People don't want to see you, and so you're being lowered on their feed or removed entirely. I believe social media was invented in promotion of freedom of speech. But at the end of the day, it's just a company trying to make money, and they have the right to alter and exercise their terms and conditions freely. Facebook has the right to ban a user the same way a gas station has the right to kick someone out for not wearing shoes. It's their service, it's their product, it's their dollar, it's their choice. That's why, in my humble conclusion, if you want to keep the sanctity of social media communication intact, then we should all be focusing less on censorship and more on our right to privacy. Now I'd like to ask you a question. Is a fence better at keeping things in or keeping things out? Thanks for listening. The end of our journey has come, but don't worry, there's plenty more to consume. If you have questions or overall feedback, chat with me, ethan@northernoakmedia.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to The Main Man on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Be sure to catch The Back Road Wednesdays at noon, anywhere podcasts are found, and thank you for walking the back road with me. I've been Ethan Levesque, here to help you accomplish your business, marketing, and production goals. And remind you that you can get there from here. Ugh. Today was one of those days, man. It must have taken me, usually it takes me about 45 minutes to get through one of these scripts. Today it took me an hour and a half. Some days you're just not performing. Some days you're just not nailing it. Some days your brain is saying words that don't exist. I think I'm going to go take a nap. Toodles.